I'd like to welcome our speakers for our next session. Sharon Kemp, Chief Executive of Rotherham Council, and Jade Batten and Jezima Zahir, graduates of the Family Nurse Partnership and Empowering Parents, Empowering Communities programme. Sharon is Chief Executive of Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council and was appointed by government commissioners and the council to lead improvements which have seen powers return and a good Ofsted rated children and young people services. Sharon has worked within the public sector for over 20 years across community safety, neighbourhood management, community cohesion, performance and partnerships. At age 18, Jade became pregnant with her first son, Findlay, and was referred to the Family Nurse Partnership programme, a new early intervention service in Swindon at the time. Angela, her family nurse, nurtured her through her pregnancy and into the first 2 years of motherhood, supporting her to overcome her adverse childhood experiences in order to be the best parent that she could be. And the experiences that she had as an FMP client have built the foundations for her own practice as a midwife and health visitor. And Jezima has been a facilitator of parenting programmes for empowering parents, empowering communities since 2014. In addition to facilitating the Being a Parent course, she's also been involved in the training of facilitators and representing EPEC in a number of discussion panels. She's a mother to 3 sons, aged 16, 15 and 12, and her 15-year-old has special needs. Thank you so much for being with us today. And Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you for the introduction. I'm Sharon Kemp and I'm delighted to host this session this morning with Jade and Jezima, where we're going to talk a little bit more about the power of early intervention and particularly around the experiences that Jade's had around family nurse partnerships and Jezima in terms of empowering parents, empowering communities. But could I turn to you first, Jade? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your relationship to the Family Nurse Partnership has been?
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning. So my name is Jade. I currently live in Wiltshire with my young family, one of whom is, of course, Finley, who is 10 next week. I was a client on the FMP programme about 10 years ago now, and I was one of the first graduates within Swindon. Up until last week, I worked really closely with the health visiting team in Swindon as well, and I do some work with the FMP National Unit as well.
Thank you. Jezima, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your relationship with the Empowering Parents and Empowering Communities?
Yes, hi, I'm Jezima, and I have been involved in leading groups for parenting groups for EPEC, Empowering Parents, Empowering Communities, since 2014. Originally, I attended a group myself as a participant because I was new to the country and wanted to know how things are done around here. We are originally from Sri Lanka. And what I found when I walked into that training room was more than what I expected. I was so taken up that when I was offered to be trained to become a facilitator, and I accepted it and have been involved in so many other events involving parents and children. So it's been a long journey, and it's a very enriching journey for me.
And Jezima, what kind of support did you receive on the programme and how did that help you?
So our program, the unique thing about the Being a Parent course, which EPEC conducts, is that it's peer-led. So the first thing that struck me was it's just somebody who's going through challenges as a parent that kind of drew me to the course, and also the strategies that they were sharing, because it's so much valuable for any parent irrespective of the difficulties they have. So I was there just out of curiosity, but then I found that there are loads of parents who are referred to this course, and some come because their friends have been attending and so on. So the support from the word go that you get is that you feel that you are not the only person in the room who's having these challenges, and also irrespective of what your social standing, ethnicity or background, you are treated without any judgment and you are valued for who you are. And also, in terms of the content of the course, it actually helped me become a better mom. And why I'm with EPEC even now is because it also enables all the facilitators or parent group leaders to make a positive change in the community, because we role model what has been role model to us when we first joined the course.
Thank you, Jezima. That's amazing, and really you speak so well about that peer-led support and how important that is. Jade, I think we should all say happy birthday to Finlay for next week. 10's a big milestone, so happy birthday, Finlay. Just what kind of support did you receive on the programme, and what did it help you with in terms of the family nurse partnerships?
So the support from my family nurse was just absolutely amazing. Throughout the 2.5 years on the programme, my family nurse Angie supported me through some really tough times, which could have played out very differently for us as a family. If she hadn't been there to support us, I'm not quite sure what would have happened, to be completely honest with you. We had the full intensive programme, as well as additional support when needed. So, for example, just a few weeks after the birth of Finlay, I became very low in mood. My mental health was really poor, and Angie somehow managed to get me a GP appointment at 4:00 on New Year's Eve, which I'm sure we could all agree is quite some feat in itself. She's just been absolutely amazing, and if it wasn't for Angie, I certainly wouldn't be sat here with you all today.
And that I'm sure that Angie's delighted with that feedback. What kind of intensity was it, Jade? What kind of things did it involve for you at the time?
So the programme started when I was around about 18 weeks. I think it was supposed to start earlier. However, I avoided many phone calls from my family nurse. So we had lots of stuff leading up to the birth of Finlay. So we went through my childhood experiences, how that might impact on me as a parent, and trying to undo some of those poor choices, I guess, that possibly could have been brought forward into my own parenting journey. And then after the birth of Finlay, it was quite intensive. So it was sort of every week to 2 weeks before gradually stepping out when Finlay was around about the age of 2.5.
And then just thinking about the impact of the programme, what, at the time when you were experiencing it, what were your thoughts then? And looking back now, what do you think?
The changes that helped me sustain were huge. So I stopped smoking. I definitely undid quite a few generations of negative parenting experiences. I have breastfed both of my babies. I've very much had an attachment style of parenting, rather one that can be quite harsh, I would say. She encouraged me to go back into education, to follow my dreams, and the sky was the limit. So massive impact.
And just maybe just I know Joe said it earlier, but your current work at the moment.
So up until last week, I was a health visitor. I qualified as a midwife about 4 years ago now, and I went straight on to do my health visitor training. I have just stepped into a new position with our local safeguarding partnership as a development manager. So I'm really hoping to be able to take some of that work that I've experienced with FMP into my role in the partnership.
That's brilliant, and congratulations, Jade. Jezima, you talked about the impact that the empowering parents, empowering communities had, and that you've obviously still engaged after quite a long period of time. How intense was your engagement at the beginning, and what does that look like now for you as things have changed?
Well, the course itself was for 8 weeks, and then at the start there's a coffee morning, so altogether it's 9 weeks. The way it has been structured is that when you walk into a session, you are kind of curious, is this something that I want, is this a place I want to be? But then once you are in there, you realize there's so much that you could learn just by sitting there and listening, because nobody would force you to say anything. But the safe environment that is created in the group makes everyone to share their stories. And then, so from 1 week to the other, it's all linked. and then starting off with how the need to parents generally have this pressure to become perfect. But the first thing that helped me, the groundbreaking thing, was it took the pressure off me, because we say it's okay to be good enough. And then that changes the way you look at yourself as well. And then, so having completed it for 8 weeks, and subsequently, if you do want to be trained to be conducting or leading similar groups, it's a 10-week training session. And immediately after, you will be allowed to conduct a group yourself. However, because it's an evidence-based program and it's manualized as well, so we follow everything that's in the manual. That's our Bible for us. And also there's supervision, which is done by clinical practitioners. And if you're trained and with other training, so I've been supervising courses myself, and at the moment involved in training of supervisors across the country. So it is the ethos of the organization that makes people makes people to try out things. The way it is delivered. When somebody tells me, if it's somebody who doesn't know what parenting is all about, I think, okay, that's fine, but you really don't know what I'm going through at home when my son is refusing to do his homework. But when I speak as a mom, it's very different. And people kind of think, and I know, I understand what you're going through. And similarly, as a group leader, when I say, I understand what you're going through, I have been there. It's so very powerful. So, and we also have a number of programs, so starting from 0 to 1 year, Baby and Us. And then the main program that we run, Being a Parent, is an 8-week session. Then we also have Living with Teenagers, and then we are now at the moment running Being a Parent Together, which involves parents in conflict. So everything, our end user is children. So everything is about how the impact of being a better parent or a good enough parent can change things for children in a positive way. That's what it's all about. And you hear it every single week, how it has changed people's lives at home and how the way they think about themselves as well as children.
And how long have you been involved now? Just remind us, because I know you did say earlier.
So it's nearly 7 years now. I'm my 7th year. So I've been conducting courses every term. So our courses are on during term time only.
Okay. And what role do you think that early intervention can play in people's lives? Today is all about obviously the research and the work that's done by the Early Intervention Foundation. And what are some of the most important things, would you say, Jezima?
Well, it's in addition to my personal experience, being there and hearing so many stories, what I feel, in my opinion, is it's the relationship that you help build between the parent and the child that brings about a positive impact in the community. So, for example, if your child is refusing to stick to boundaries, try different strategies. We present them with a toolkit, and that helps them develop a better communication style with their children, and also it helps them build confidence in children. And the children themselves, when the parents try out these different strategies, they get a boost in self-esteem, and they try to be more cooperative and avoid behaving in a way that they will disappoint the parent. Because it's we talk about when the child does good things, how you can encourage them to continue doing those good things, continuing by praising them and rewarding them, so that they know what is it that will make me happy and my mom or dad happy. So that way you can actually bring about a positive change down the line. And I have seen that in my child with special needs. He actually, reflective listening, for example, helped him communicate with me better, although he has difficulty in communication. He has speech and language difficulty. But in my elder son, who's 16, the relationship that we have, because we have such open communication, and I have been able to inculcate the values, both the cultural as well as the value of the country, how he can be a useful citizen, why it is important for him to be a role model, and also to accept people for who they are without being judgmental about them or being prejudiced towards anybody. So I think that the long-term impact is such that it gets internalized, all these strategies, and you make even in a small way, you make a positive contribution because you started early.
And it was really interesting to hear the confidence you had, because there was an evidence base. And because of that evidence base, you were confident to be able to, one, participate for yourself, but two, as you've gone on and become a trainer yourself, the importance of that to you and how you felt about it. Jade, can I ask the same question to you? Because, obviously you've experienced the family nurse partnership, and then you've gone on and created a career also in terms of the work that you've done. And what do you think about the impact that early intervention has to play in people's lives?
I think that, early intervention is something that has a huge, huge impact on everybody's life, regardless if you're a universal family or a family that needs more intensive support. From a personal perspective, it's made a massive difference. As you said, I have completely changed my life course. It's made me realise that the career for me is one very similar to the family nurse partnership. And from a professional perspective, it allows us to be able to do that really meaningful work so that you can work with families before things reach a crisis point. The economic gains are huge when it comes to early intervention as well. There was research done by Public Health England that showed that for every £4 invested in teenage pregnancy, the returns were £4. And whilst that doesn't seem like a lot, it soon adds up very quickly. There's actually upcoming research as well from the Family Nurse Partnership that's looking at outcomes for children that have received FMP intervention. And they'll be looking at it up until the age of 6. So looking at things like early childhood development, education and maltreatment referrals into social care.
And then, there's obviously a lot of people that are going to be listening today, and a lot of practitioners, people that work in policy right across public sector and other colleagues. What are some of the key messages that you'd want to give people around early intervention and the learning that the sector could take from your experience? If I go to Jade and then Jezima, what would be some of the key things you'd want people to take away from today from your experience?
My biggest learning point would be to look at your non-engagement policies. Do not stop trying to engage families in your early intervention just because they've missed a couple of phone calls or they've not been in for a visit. If you work with vulnerable people, they're often very used to being let down. And actually, by giving up after a couple of attempted contacts, you're almost fulfilling that self-fulfilling prophecy for them. We can't all change the world, unfortunately, as nice as that might be, but you never know that, your third, fourth, fifth contact is the one that gets you in, and you might be able to change the world for that person, just like my family nurse did for me and for Finley.
That's great. And you said earlier, didn't you, that it took quite a few calls to get you engaged. So that's probably, and you've obviously found that as well from your experience with others. So keep going, don't give up, keep that contact is probably, is summary of what you're saying, Jade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. And Jezima, the same for you in terms of, there's a lot of people listening today. And
yes.
What are the key messages that you would give to the wider early intervention sector that they could learn from your experiences?
So the impact of early intervention is so invaluable, and then now more than ever, engaging parents. So now we have more dads attending because we are virtual, and not to give up. So the problem, we cannot be focusing too much on the problem. The pandemic is happening, but we continue to give the support because we see now more people need that support. And then there's a cost-effective way of doing it. And at EPEC, we just trust the process, and we trust, and because we sincerely care, it comes from the heart, and people can see it very easily. So to keep on reaching out to people so that they know there's somebody whom you can talk to, share your problems with without being judged.
I suppose it's a really important message, isn't it, for all of us in terms of walking in other people's shoes and not being judgmental and keeping that contact. You mentioned the pandemic, Jezima. What do you see for the next 12 months for EPEC? What are some of the things that with the pandemic and fantastic news today about the start of the rollout about the vaccine. Will that influence some of the work over the next 12 months, do you think?
Yes, so we are gradually trying to have face-to-face contact, which all of us love. But obviously, because of venues that we are using may have certain restrictions. So we are running both virtual, but now there's more demand, and we are across the country and even internationally, we are able to reach out to more people. So that's the positive thing about. And then for them to know they are not alone, although they may be alone at home, self-isolating, but we just come and make you feel better just by sharing a joke or, a story, a powerful story.
Yes. And actually, it's interesting, isn't it, that there'll be some things that we'll want to keep hold of in terms of virtual contact, but will never be substituted either by the face-to-face, but there will be some learning, I think, positive learning that we'll want to take forward. And Jade, starting a new role, lots of fantastic experience to take into your new role. Is there anything that around the pandemic and thinking about the next 12 months as things start to change that you would want people to hold on to or that will influence your practice over the coming 12 months?
I think my biggest thing would be that whilst there are benefits of virtual contacts, they absolutely cannot replace face-to-face contacts. It's really vital that we are starting to go back into people's homes to see them face-to-face and just trying to work in new, creative, imaginative ways to be able to get past some of the issues around COVID.
Yeah. And I think we'd all probably want to say thank you, wouldn't we, to all those people that have carried on with early intervention activity right throughout the pandemic, finding ways to do things and starting to build a new evidence base. And I'm aware that we've probably not got much time left, and I really would want to make sure that we got all the learning out from both of you so that we can share it with the sector. Jade, is there anything else that you'd want to make sure that people took away from the session today around your experience around family nurse partnerships?
I think it's about realising the impact that early intervention really, really does have. I know that with early intervention, you don't see the long-term impact for a while, and we tend to quite like quick responses in the roles that we do, but the evidence is there, and just you have to keep going with it, really. Don't let quick wins outshine the longer-term ones.
I think that's a really important point, isn't it? That, it does take time, but we know it works. So keeping at it and keeping to the evidence base. And Jezima, from you, anything else that you want to make sure that we learn from your experience today that we can share with colleagues?
Yes, just like Jade said, it's really important that you are consistent and you don't give up, because even in our groups, lots of parents come for quick fixes, but actually they get more than what they came for because they start looking at things differently. They take a different perspective about themselves, and they know that, okay, there's no quick fix. And everyone makes mistakes. I don't have to be perfect, but let me keep on trying. And that encouragement, support you get. And that's what keeps us going as group leaders, is that culture, the nurturing that we get from the organization, which we pass down to the individual parents. And on the last session of our groups, the bond that we have built with parents is so amazing that 2 years later, if I meet a parent on the road, oh, they come and, no, you can't do that, but they come and give a hug. Oh, Jezima, you won't believe my son is now doing this, doing that. So that's what is important. We're not giving up on them and making sure that they don't give up on themselves too.
That's fantastic. A huge thank you to both of you. You're such inspirational characters, and thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences and how evidence-led practice has supported you through the Family Nurse Partnership and the Empowering Parents and Empowering Communities. And you've both gone on and are amazing women doing fantastic things with many other people who are benefiting from your skills. So that's amazing. And I think one of the things that really stands out for me from both of you is that bit about not giving up on people, not being judgmental, making sure that we carry on using that evidence-led practice because we know it works, and actually taking the time to stick to that evidence-led practice to see the results are the key things that I take away from your fantastic experiences. So huge thank you for sharing that today. It's absolutely lovely. Many happy returns to Finley for next week. I hope he has a lovely birthday, and huge thank you for sharing that this morning.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Sharon and Jade and Jezima. It's a fantastic wealth of both personal and professional experience there. We're really grateful to you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning, and an excellent way to start off our deliberations, our debates and discussions today. So thank you very much indeed for your time.